Morning, everyone. So nobody's quite on yet, so I'm just going to give a few seconds here, the rest of this minute, and then we'll get started. All right, just giving everybody a couple of seconds here to join. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Well, first of all, welcome back. Happy 2021. Not too sad to see 2020 go, although there were definitely some positive moments, some great things that happened, but lots of challenges as well. So things are looking hopeful for this upcoming year. So we'll just hope for the best and keep doing what we have been doing to meet those challenges and overcome them. So first thing I want to get into here is, of course, some COVID information. So we have adopted some guidelines from the CDC and Riverstone Health on how to utilize a 10-day close contact quarantine as opposed to the 14-day quarantine. Now, the CDC does still recommend the 14-day quarantine as the best option. However, there are circumstances in which we can utilize a 10-day quarantine to shorten up that time as well. So obviously, from a school principal point of view, we want our kids to be able to be in school as much as possible. So there's definitely a benefit there to get kids back in school sooner. Also, so far from what we've seen within the school, at least at our school, we have not seen transmission from kids to other kids. Our cases have been relatively low so far this year. So I feel pretty good about the 10-day quarantine. However, there are some rules that go along with it. So this afternoon, I will be emailing all of the parent emails a copy of this, which it is called the Parent Guardian Early Release from Quarantine Agreement. So this is what we will need to have agreed upon and signed by a parent or guardian when a student has been identified as a close contact and they want to come back to school on day 11 of their quarantine instead of day 15. So the highlights of this, really the biggest thing here is the student coming back from the quarantine early will be required to wear their mask regardless of the setting, with the one exception being when they're eating. So at recess, they will have to wear their mask. If you're just joining, this is just for kids who have been identified as a close contact coming back early from quarantine. They can now come back on day 11 after 10 days instead of coming back on day 15 after 14 days. So as elementary students, it's going to affect them the least amount compared to, middle school or high school, where there's more sports and those kind of extracurricular activities involved. However, the one circumstance that our students will be affected is recess and PE. So if there is an activity in PE where it is unsafe for kids to wear a mask and participate, these kiddos who are on day 11 through 14 of their quarantine and they're coming back early, they will have to sit out for those PE classes. Now, if they can safely wear a mask and participate in PE, and that will be up to the PE teacher, they can participate. So I will be sending this document home this afternoon via email. So just take a good look at that. That way, if it does come up, you're not looking at it for the first time when you really need to look at it. So just be familiar with that. So again, if your student is identified as a close contact and you are asking for a 10-day quarantine instead of the 14-day quarantine, this agreement does have to be signed by the parent and guardian, and there are some stipulations in there that the student is required to abide by in order for that 10-day quarantine to work. So again, I'll be sending that out via parent email. So if you do not get an email sent to your email account from me by the end of, well, let's say this, by the beginning of tomorrow, then please check your PowerSchool account for your contact information and make sure the correct email. I do get about a dozen emails bounced back to me when I send emails out because there's an incorrect email address or an inbox is full, something like that. So just make sure you're getting those emails. The other thing I will send out that is new to us as well is the COVID-19 symptom check guide for parents. We have some changes here as well that are going to be significant. So the big change here is now there are some symptoms where if we see that symptom, well, let me back up a little bit. We still are going to send kids home with any symptom, and they have to be 24 hours symptom free with any symptom to come back to school. Now, if they have two of any of these following symptoms, there are some other circumstances that will also apply. So if they have any two of the following, a temperature over 100.4, or chills, muscle or body aches, headache, sore throat, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, fatigue, congestion or runny nose. If they have any two of those combined, we are making the assumption until it's proven otherwise that they are COVID positive. So what you will need to do at that point is then get them tested, provide us a negative result, and then they can come back 24 hours symptom free. If you opt to not get them tested, which of course is your right as a parent, then we are going to assume that they are positive, and you will need to keep them home. Let me get the correct language here. So the document says if you decide not to have your child tested and your child is experiencing suspected COVID symptoms, your child must remain home for 10 days since the symptoms first began, and he or she must be fever-free for 24 hours and back to their usual health prior to returning to school. So if they had any two of those symptoms that I listed, they either need to be home for 10 days or until we're provided with a negative test result. Now, if they have any one symptom of the following symptoms, same things apply. Negative test result or 10 days at home. So if they have any a new or unexplained cough, shortness of breath or difficulty breathing, or any loss of taste or smell, then again, the assumption is that they have COVID until we are proven otherwise with that negative test result. Now, if we know that your child has allergies, or we know that they have asthma, and you have worked with our nurses to come up with what we call an emergency healthcare plan, then of course we will still go through the route of the nurses to let them make that determination if it is related to that asthma or those allergies, or if they feel like we need to have either a negative result or 10 days away from school. So I will be sending this document home as well with the other one in an email today, so that you can have that in front of you and read it for yourself. And then if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. So we'll be using these guidelines moving forward until we have new guidelines. So you may be wondering, well, how on earth did you come up with these rules? So our nurses work very closely with the local pediatricians from Billings Clinic and St. V's, as well as Riverstone Health. And so these were their recommendations. And so using, the knowledge of our local experts, that is how our nurses came up with these guidelines. So I know it's frustrating to have to keep your kids home for that length of time, but we have to have more of a bigger perspective of just doing everything we can to protect everybody. And again, we have had a very low case count here at the school. So I expect and hope that will, and hopefully this will not be a big impact on many of us. All right, moving on, just want to remind everybody that anybody in our building does have to wear their mask. It does need to be over their mouth and their nose. Of course, you see I'm not wearing one right now. I assure you I'm in my office, the door is closed. As soon as this is over, it will be back on. And then if you are able to provide your student with a mask, please do so. We do have a limited number of masks that we have here at school. So if a kiddo shows up without a mask, we're more than happy to provide one for them, but it just helps us out immensely if most of our kids can show up with one already. Just a reminder to practice good social distancing, and then of course, good hand hygiene. So those things not only help with COVID, but they also help with the flu, with the common cold, and anything else. So just remember those things. Also, a good reminder, it is winter in Montana in January, although looking out the window, you would never know that. But I do anticipate that at some point we'll probably experience the typical Montana winter. So just make sure that your kids are dressed for the weather. It is pretty chilly in the morning when kids come to school. It warms up throughout the day. So just make sure that they do have those jackets and those coats, hats and gloves when they need them. And of course, when it snows, snow pants and snow boots. We don't let kids go play out in the field in the snow unless they do have snow boots. Otherwise, we have lots of kids with cold, wet socks and pants, and that is not comfortable for the rest of the day and distracts them, of course, from learning, which is where we really want their focus. So dress for the weather, please. January 18th, which is 2 weeks from today, Monday the 18th, is a PIR day for teacher training. So there is no school for kids. So please mark your calendars for that, January 18th. And then also coming up, which is a big deal every year for us, February 5th is Jersey/Hat Day. So this is a fundraiser for the school district's backpack food program, which helps us send backpacks of food home with kids on the weekends for families that need it. Typically, we have about 20 families that we help serve right out of our own school. So that is a good benefit right here to our Broadwater community. So how that works is we invite all kids and staff to wear a jersey. We don't want anybody to be left or, their favorite team shirt or whatever it may be. But then we also allow kids and staff to wear a hat during school that day if they are able to donate $1. So we ask that they bring $1 to donate, and then they're able to wear a hat. Of course, any other donations are very welcomed and appreciated. We don't require the kids to their jersey or their team shirts. we just do that more of as a show of support. So that's February 5th, and we'll send out information and more reminders about that as it gets closer as well. So I do see a question on the side here, so I appreciate that. The question is, so basically they have to be tested every time they get sick or be out for 10 days. So in a sense, yes, but it depends on what symptoms they have. So the document I will send out has 3 symptoms that are, if you have this symptom and it can't be explained by a previously documented allergy or asthma, something like that, then yes, it is either a negative test or 10 days. So that would be either a cough, shortness of breath or difficulty breathing, or a new loss of taste or smell. Now, if they don't have any of those symptoms, but they have 2 or more of the following, then that rule would apply. So that's a fever, muscle or body aches, headache, sore throat, nausea or vomiting, diarrhea, fatigue, congestion, or runny nose. So it would take 2 of those symptoms for that to apply. So if a kiddo does get sent home with a fever, and that's the only symptom they have, they can come back to school 24 hours after that fever has gone away. If they get sent home with a sore throat, same thing, 24 hours. But if they had those 2 things combined, then that rule would come into play. So thank you for that question. Okay, any other questions? I do want to remind everybody that we do have a week-long spring break this year. It is in March. So that'll be coming up. I believe it's the 2nd week of March. We'll give reminders out when that gets closer as well. All right. I certainly appreciate all of you joining in with me today. As always, if you have any topics or questions like addressed on these weekly chats, please send them to my email, huckj@billingschools.org. And also be watching for my email coming out hopefully by the end of today with the information that I just shared in 2 documents, a COVID-19 symptom check guide for parents and parent guardian early release from quarantine agreement. Those will both be coming home today. If you do not get those, by tomorrow morning, please check your PowerSchool account for make sure we have the correct email, or give our office a call and have Karen check that for you to make sure that everybody's getting the communication. All right, with that, have a great Monday. Have a great rest of your week and a great 2021, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.